When you first think of a vampire, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it bats, crosses, blood-sucking predators who stalk the street at night? Or it might be the rare few of you out there that think of the vampire's mortal enemy, the werewolf. And there might even be the rarer few of you who first heard of this game, Vampire the Masquerade, and wanted, man, this game seems kind of cool, but what if I could play as the werewolf itself? And then we're promptly disappointed that there were no werewolves in Vampire. Well, there are werewolves, actually, in World of Darkness, but, it's besides the point. Not really wolves that infect people with the bite. More like nature spirits created by Earth itself to fight pollution. It's a whole thing. It's pretty fun. You want to play as an eco-terrorist? Go play Werewolf the Apocalypse. If you want to try to teeter that line and get a little close to it, that's where we get to talk about Clan Gangrel, who are the more bestial vampires, and the vampires that break the mold, which is what makes them very interesting, and a clan that I would also argue is one of the more popular, which is also the reason they are probably the most requested clan I have had. Honestly, a lot of people have asked me to make this video. They're also the first clan I can say, very promptly, they're not my favorite, though they do have my favorite character in Vampire the Masquerade. So that's something. But first and foremost, before I get into everything here, I do want to give an embarrassingly late shout out to Sky Bradley and Henry Langdon over on Storyteller's Vault, because they actually sent me a free copy of their third-party clan book Gangrel PDF. Like, it's very good. It's very well done. If you want more content for Gangrel, which, to be completely honest, they've not been treated the greatest for reasons I'm going to go into in this. Their lore isn't super well detailed, and if you just want more toys to play with inside of your chronicle, honestly, this is the book for you. You got some new disciplines, bloodlines, lore sheets, whole lot of fun goodies here. A personal favorite is The Thing That's Seen You. I really do like this thing. It's absolutely fantastic. I love the vibe. This isn't like sponsored or anything, by the way. I just read through this thing and I enjoyed it and thought, like, this doesn't break anything. I think you could actually add this to your chronicle just as flavor and extra additions for fun. So I do recommend picking it up. Thank you to all my channel members for making these videos possible. But Clan Gangrel themselves. Now, the main thing that really sets them apart as a clan is the fact that they, unlike every other kindred in modern nights, and I guess throughout all their history, are way more comfortable in the more rural, outside environments, away from civilization and away from the bustling city. Now, this is very, very different for one key reason. The natural habitat and the natural stalking ground of a vampire is the city where humans are, because that's what they hunt. That's their main prey. Gangrel is more in tune with nature. This is something that a lot of the other kindred find deeply weird, find them uncouth in their culture, which their culture is also a little violent, to put it very lightly, as Gangrel, when they come across each other, do like to tussle. They like to not put things in words. They start throwing blows just to put things into perspective. You meet a guy, the best way you can learn about him is a good old shonen anime shit where you fight and then become best friends afterwards. Like, that's the method they do. Gangrel is the clan that if you want to be more in tune with the wild side, and specifically animals, shape-shifting. If you want to become a vampire that turns into like a wolf and shapeshifts into like bats and stuff, this is the actual thing to play. But Clan Gangrel is actually one of the founding clans that got their start in the first city, which is where we can start the actual story of Clan Gangrel, where they got their start from the antediluvian, Anoia. And I'm gonna be completely honest, she sucks. Completely. Not a great person from the stories I've seen, but that's kind of the bar set for every single named vampire character. But there's another extra layer on top of this. She's super complicated, because there are, just going through like the main wiki page and the books and everything, there are like 5 main stories of her backstory. Because for one key reason when it comes to Gangrel, they just don't really care about their origin. So I'm gonna have to very quickly go through the 5 possible origins for Anoia. So of these 5 possible stories, The first one is referred to as the story of the Beast. Now, the Beast Anoia was raised by wolves and abandoned as a child. Now, it's really important because I'm talking about vampires. When I say child, I mean child without the E, because it's very integral. Now, she was raised by wolves, very, very bestial, and all of that. You know, being raised by wolves does that. At some point, she did actually get to the first city and then become a vampire, but then she was betrayed by the clan Ravnos, antediluvian, which something that they would dispute. I'll get into that later, because there's a lot of baggage when it comes to clan Ravnos, like a whole lot. If you want extra context for this, go watch my Clan Ravnos video. This is another complicated part because there are some parts that say this happened before, some parts that say that happened after. Either way, there's parts of this tale that says that Anoia took a mate from her wolf pack. Gross. And this is where the first werewolves got their start, because she had kids, they were wolf people, and now werewolves are a thing. We frankly know this is not true. This is completely untrue. Also, this is sourced from Nodus text. This is like a vampire Bible. I don't know where they got this shit from. And then I guess also in some retellings, Anoia is either male or female, depending on the telling. Clan Toreador refers to Anoia as a man, who then goes to Sunmer, to then found Clan Gangrel. We go to the second story, the Tiger Queen, which Anoia and Ravana, the antediluvian for Clan Ravnos, where instead they go westward to Central Asia. This is where we get more of their sibling rivalry. She set up in Sunmer, but they had a sibling falling out and really tried to kill each other. They had a big clan war. But the problem is, Ravnos, they were a bit more cunning, quicker, smarter, and got the victory over them. Because Gangrel, very, very strong, but they do just kind of run forward and try to go a little brute strength with it. Even worse, by some accounts, Ravana called down some form of holy devastation from the sky, whatever that means. They didn't go into detail. Forced Anoia to leave Central Asia and go off somewhere else. The third tale is the tale of the twin gods, where it echoes some of the stuff I talked about, again, in my Clan Ravnos and my Week of Nightmares video, where again, Ravana, also known as Churka in this video, were fighting. However, it builds a little differently on the whole unholy devastation part, where now the Kuei Jin are involved in the fighting. Though I guess, you know what, we should move away from these retellings. Let's just mix it up. The Tale of the Einhar, where instead we get to go to Scandinavia, because in this telling, the Gangrel got their start up north, where in this version, the first vampire was not Cain or anything like that. Instead, the first vampire was a man known as Knarl, who was cursed by Odin himself, a warrior who, in dying, instead of going off to Valhalla, was cursed by Odin to fight with him on the day of Ragnarok. Now, the method of this is different depending on who you talk to, but this does explain the fact that Gangrel actually have a really, really large northern presence, a very, very strong German presence, and very strong Nordic presence. Now, also the method of this, like I said, the method of him becoming a vampire is very interesting, because one of them actually is Odin stabbing his hand with a spear and then force-feeding Knarl like the blood, this divine essence, which honestly, as much as this is just untrue because we know Cain is actually the first vampire, there is a version of this where that could have been Cain. Like, because Cain did fully fuck off from the first city and just travel around the world. That could have been him. But there was like a whole thing, because they did fully use like a lot of mythology from around the world, and there is also a very prominent vampire that was in Scandinavia that took the name Odin the Allfather, and he's currently still kicking up there, just in Torpor. Like, fun fact, it's very cool. Then lastly, this last one, the Tale of the Traitor, where this is told where Anoia, it was made alongside Zapasathura, again, Ravnos, by the gods. This is very, like, Indian epic poem. She rebelled once she learned of the origin and was cursed to live among all the beasts, and she was then also cursed to find no safe haven. The very typical vampire curse, and the same curse that Cain was given by the angels of God. It's also noted that Gangrel were also cursed because they started a feud against Ravnos, like the clan, because Clan Ravnos was really loved by the gods themselves because they showed strength and resolve and they felt full purposefulness. And meanwhile, Clan Gangrel was stinky and cringe and stupid. And if I'm not making this very clear, it really feels like this telling is very, very Ravnos coded and really, really like, fuck you, Gangrel, we hate you. It's like the literary equivalent of I've depicted you as the soy Wojak. But throughout all this, there's a lot of through lines that I'm certain you could have already seen. Anoya is someone who is not treated the best, but also doesn't deserve to be treated the greatest. There's an element of the story in Ravnos' tale where Ravnos saw Anoya be exiled from the first city. There are two versions of the specific tale of Anoya being exiled. Either Ravnos was responsible for the exiling and he betrayed her trust, or, according to Clan Ravnos, he saw Anoya be exiled, he took pity on her, and then took her in, she betrayed him, and left him out to die. So there are two versions of that. It really depends who you trust. And throughout all that too, it's a lot of other elements where Clan Gangrel is scattered and sets up in some main key areas. Scandinavia, Sunmer, outside of the first city. Went out into the wildlands, living among the beasts, all those elements are there. Because that is where Clan Gangrel really likes to be. Also, separate from the other clans, not as treated, not as in a strong position. Because that's really where they were, not in a favorable political position. In the wildlands, taking part, working around the ideas of pagan religions where civilization would prosper and the other vampires would take advantage of politics and using human civilization to their advantage. All the Gangrels would be more in the woods, in the outskirts of civilization, living their lives. A little upset at the development as the woods kind of shrunk on their territory. But one of the reasons a lot of those stories are so scattered is largely for one key reason, and it's the fact that Clan Gangrel promptly does not care about their own myth and their own story. A lot of those stories and tales I told you promptly were not written down and told and studied by Clan Gangrel. Other people did that. Like the first one, that was like Toreador, some of the others by Tremere, by Ravnos, that was not by them. They don't care to write it down. I doubt a lot of them can read. That's slander, and I'm sorry. Because Clan Gangrel lives a lot in the moment. They care about the day-to-day, and they care about strength, and they care about survival. Because honestly, that's what matters. It's that element I really do respect. But they would carry on their way of life, even as the forests and their landscape would shrink, taking advantage of, like I said, those pagan religions and superstitious humans, because they would interact with politics in the way of almost a lot of the characters would supplant in as some form of supernatural entity that people would revere and be scared of, and be treated of like gods almost, like that Odin guy was mentioning, to where people would give themselves to be drank from, or other forms of this. That's kind of how they would interact. And this would become a lot harder to work with as humanity and history went on, especially around the Renaissance times. A really interesting point, if you like the development of Vampire timeline, is the Dark Ages timeline. That point, just go read the source book around then. Even though they were separate, they also were there at the Convention of Thorns and did help create the Camarilla. They were involved. This wouldn't last super long. They helped make the Camarilla. They were involved. They were a Camarilla-aligned faction. However, they then would eventually leave in 1999-2000. This is for a decent amount of reasons. There's a mix. I found multiple reasons. One of the key ones is because of a dude named Xavier, who pulled the clan out for reasons I saw debated online for being stupid. I haven't read the clan novels, so I can't judge on how smart of a decision it is, but he fought an antediluvian, was like, yo, shit, guys, antediluvians, they're real. Went to the Camarilla, and they were like, the antediluvians aren't real. And he's like, dog, I saw one. And they're like, it's not real, dude. Sorry. Which, I mean, it's the Camarilla's official position that the antediluvians aren't real, because if they admit that, then their government is fake, and they would have to admit that. So, you know, it's a whole thing. So nowadays, Clan Gangrel is actually with the Anarch movement. They're an Anarch-aligned clan. Though the most important thing about Clan Gangrel, the part a lot of people care about, what vampire powers are you going to play with here? When it comes to your disciplines, you have access to animalism, which is your control and influence of animals. This allows you to do things like talk to animals or bond with an animal to where they can become your familiar. You also have fortitude, which is vampiric toughness, methods to make yourself tougher and get around your own weaknesses. But the main driving force when it comes to Gangrel, the real important one, is Protean. Protean is the ability to shapeshift yourself and take on traits of, mainly for them, animal traits. This is the stuff that lets you grow a big beast claw, grow a maw of animal teeth instead of just your two dinky little vampire fangs. Really shapeshift. And then we have your Clan Bane and Compulsion, which has actually gone through a change. Not even just through like the edition change, which is it actually had to get patched early on because it was a little rough. The Clan Bane itself used to be a lot worse. So specifically, it's very important to mention, Clan Gangrel is very in tune with their beast. The beast itself is the vampiric predator that is inside every kindred. The thing that constantly is pushing for you to go deeper and go farther and become like the true predator, the monster that you are. Often referred to as almost like a demonic force inside of you. And the Bane and the Compulsion is it acting out in some way. The Gangrel Bane is whenever you frenzy, you will take on an animalistic trait of some form. Now, this lasts a single night. This can be any form of trait. Either you gain thicker fur, like your hair turns very thick like a pelt. Your teeth becomes different. You get like cat or dog eyes. I don't know, your ears become pointy, something like that. This used to be permanent. It then changed a couple editions into like the old game to be a nightly thing. Then when you woke up, it would be gone. Mainly because it's honestly not very difficult to frenzy and like break early on. So you'd come up to the table with your first character, you're like level 1, and your character would frenzy, or at least just break and do something vampiric. And boom, your character's just been altered completely, like right away. And that's not cool, like to do to your table. Like it's not fun, because now your character identity is kind of borked. So it's a good change. And then your Clan Compulsion is really just return to monkey a little bit, where you become a lot more bestial. Speech is harder. You want to revert a lot more to animal instinct, because why talk when you could just smack someone real hard? It just makes a lot more sense. Just those animalistic nature instincts instead want to take over. And then lastly, it's very quick. I'm not going to go very much in detail because I normally don't, but I would just be sad if I didn't make a tiny little reference. There are a couple of Gangrel bloodlines that I think are really, really cool. The two main ones I want to mention are the Aramens, who are essentially Gangrel Valkyries. It is an all-woman bloodline, Scandinavian, who are literally just full-on Valkyries, and they are sick. They, instead of like animalism, they have spiritus, and they commune with spirits. It's very, very cool. And the other one I want to mention is Mariners, because this one is great. I really love the through line of this because it makes so much fucking sense. Now, you're a vampire. You don't need a lot of your biological functions anymore because you are a corpse. One of them is you actually don't need to breathe anymore. Like your lungs don't do anything. You don't need to breathe. So there's nothing stopping you from living underwater. A chunk of Clan Gangrel realized this, and then also realized that they can shapeshift into animals. So they're like, what if we became fish people, lived underwater? The sun's not a problem because if we're deep enough, the sun doesn't matter. So we can kind of just do whatever the fuck we want. And then we can just pop out as fish monsters and eat people, and no one will know we're vampires. And they're fucking geniuses. That is the smartest fucking thing I've ever heard. So every time there is a attributed sea monster attack, it is a Mariner Gangrel. Fucking giga-brained. I love them. And yeah, that is honestly Clan Gangrel. They're fun. They're not exactly my cup of tea. The only one that I will say is fucking Beckett from Vampire Bloodlines. I love this man. Truly, deeply, he's the greatest ever. So he's like the best, and he carries the clan in my eyes. But other than that, yeah, they're fun. But yeah, if you like this, I don't know, like, comment, subscribe, do that stuff, join membership, and see ya.